God, we wait for your light. Guide us to your way of peace. May our darkness disappear. From all sorrow may we find release. Shine upon us like the morning sun rising in the eastern sky. Shine upon us, may the radiance of your love and comfort fill our lives. God, we wait for your light. Guide us to your way of peace. May our darkness disappear. From all sorrow may we find release. Shine upon us like the morning sun rising in the eastern sky. Shine upon us, may the radiance of your love and comfort fill our lives. God, we wait for your light. Guide us to the way of peace. May our darkness disappear. From all sorrow may we find release. Shine upon us. Shine upon us. Shine upon us. Shine upon us.
Hello and welcome to this time of reflection for the week of February the 25th until March the 4th. Here we are on the cusp of another month, and here at the church we're on the cusp of another season. Next week we will enter into the season of Lent. As we begin, I want to acknowledge that I am here in my office and I am at the church, which is located on the traditional and the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. And I am grateful to these nations for the way that they have stewarded this land. And this week I was reminded also, it's not just the land that has been so beautifully stewarded over the centuries from time immemorial by the ancestors that have cared for this land. It's also the air and the sea around this place that has been tended. And I'm grateful not only to serve, to minister, to work on this land and in this territory, but also to be able to live here. And we share this truth each time that we gather in this building to remind ourselves that those of us who have a history of being settlers on this land, that we do owe a debt of gratitude to the Indigenous people who have been on this land long before us, and to acknowledge the ways that our relationship between our Indigenous siblings has been broken over the years, and it is our work together to work towards reconciliation. I'm going to light the Christ candle to remind us of the reconciling presence of Christ in our midst, the presence that for those of us who are followers of the Jesus way reminds us of this call to be a reconciling people, and reminds us also of this light that is within each and every one of us, this light that calls us all beloved and encourages us in the work of seeking reconciliation in the world. So today is the last day, or this week is the last week in our Let Your Light Shine series, our Epiphany series that we have been engaged in over these weeks since the season of Christmas came to an end. And this season always finishes with the story known as the Transfiguration in the Bible. So I'm going to read that story for us now, and then, as always, I will have a few words of reflection about it. So I'm reading from the 17th chapter of Matthew's Gospel. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with them. And then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, "This is my Son, the Beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." And when the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." So I'm recording this message hours after I woke up to the news that Russia has invaded Ukraine. It's news that we've been anticipating over the last several weeks, but the extent to which that is unfolding, the extent of the attack, is beyond what many people thought that it might be. And I came into work today, and I could sense the fear and concern amongst the staff here, amongst people that I was in conversation with. And so that's the context in which I share the reading for today. And I found myself thinking about these spiritual ancestors that appear on the mountaintop, Elijah and Moses, who mysteriously show up. It's a mystical experience. And I found myself thinking, if there was ever a time for us to call upon our spiritual ancestors, surely it is now, or again, it is now. It's a time for us to draw courage and draw strength from our tradition, from revelation that has been passed from one generation to the next. Revelations about the value of all people, and revelations about the strength and the courage that we do have within us. I think also about that part of this passage that talks about not being afraid. It's the piece that we're going to zero in on this Sunday. Those words of Jesus, "Don't be afraid." He says, get up off the ground, and don't be afraid. I'm thinking about the way that fear can immobilize us, and the way that fear can mobilize us. It can do both of those things, it seems to me. I think we're seeing fear mobilized in Ukraine right now, right? I would submit that all war comes from a place of fear. And we also know, I'm sure, I certainly do in my own life, the way that fear can immobilize us. It can cause us to, stop dead in our tracks. It can cause us to not do things that we're called to do, or that in our heart of hearts we want to do. There's so often fear brings us up short of who we want to be. And so when Jesus says to his followers, don't be afraid of the awesomeness of what you have experienced on this mountaintop, it's as if he is saying, don't be afraid of the power that is actually within you to do good. His words for them are words of encouragement. Don't be afraid of the power of good that is within you. Don't be afraid of the mission, of the call that is yours and the call that is mine to be a voice of encouragement, to be the face of love in a world that is full of a lot of fear, and particularly in this moment. It's a word of encouragement to keep us moving, to keep us active in being that face of love for one another. And so the spiritual practice that we're encouraging people to do in this week is to think about how we can be a face of encouragement to other people, maybe particularly to folks who are dwelling in a lot of fear, and how we might do that with our words. We might do it with notes of encouragement. We might do it with phone calls of encouragement. We might do it just by checking in with one another. How are you really doing? Rough time that we're going through, rough time that we continue to go through. So we need each other, and there are actually simple ways that we can be for one another a source of encouragement, that we can not let fear immobilize us, but perhaps that we can acknowledge and move beyond it to be a force of good in the world. It's so needed. Before I finish today, I want to remind those of you who are geographically close to the church that next Wednesday we will enter into the season of Lent in the way that we do traditionally in this church, and this year more in the way that we have done it traditionally over the years. So we will gather at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, for the imposition of ashes, to receive the imposition of ashes, a sign of our humanity and a sign of our willingness and in our attention to begin our 40-day and 40 nights and 6 Sunday journey to Easter. This year our theme is called Good Enough, and I will be reflecting on that in each of the 6 weeks of the season of Lent, in my weekly reflections with you here and in our Sunday morning reflections. And we are using as the basis for our reflections a book by Kate Bowers called Good Enough. It's a devotional guide, and that guide is available. You might find it online if you're not geographically close to us, or we have some of those books here at the church available for purchase. And next Tuesday, the day before Lent begins, so that's Shrove Tuesday, you might want to fire up your pancake pan. My colleague, Reverend Carla, will be beginning a discussion group to talk about the devotions in the group, the book, Kate Bowers' book, Good Enough. And you're welcome to join us for that, either through Zoom on Tuesday evenings or in person on Tuesday afternoons. And the links for that, or the information on how to join that, are in our e-news, where you would have found this reflection. So blessings on your week, this last week of the season of Epiphany, this last week in which we reflect deeply on the ways that we are the light of the world, inspired, guided by the one we call the light of the world, the one who infuses our lives with love and courage and helps us to move beyond our fear.
Shine upon us like the morning sun rising in the eastern sky. Shine upon us, may the radiance of your love and comfort fill our lives. God, we wait for your light. Guide us to your way of peace. May our darkness disappear. From all sorrow may we find release. Shine upon us like the morning sun rising in the eastern sky. Shine upon us, may the radiance of your love and comfort fill our lives. God, we wait for your light. Guide us to your way of peace. May our darkness disappear. From all sorrow may we find release. Shine upon us like the morning sun rising in the eastern sky. Shine upon us, may the radiance of your love and comfort fill our lives. God, we wait for your light. Guide us to the way of peace. May our darkness disappear. From all sorrow